Welcome to the Orbital Drop Shock podcast. I'm your host, Sharon, and today we are talking about Halo Helljumper. I think this was my first Halo comic that I ever picked up, so this is kind of important to me. It's kind of like how Justice League Trinity War is so important because it was my first DC comic. This is my first Halo, and I believe my first comic at all. So, for those of you that are joining us for the first time, what I normally do is I flip through the story, tell you the basic plot of the tale, and I talk about it. I'm not going to go like as in depth as we used to on the podcast because that took forever and it just got boring after a while. So I'm just going to read through, skip all the unessential stuff for you to get the plot. We'll talk about it. But first, I want to say a couple of things. We're reshuffling stuff with the YouTube channel, trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work. We'll be doing a lot more short length content, I guess. And we'll be doing a lot on social media. We'll be also, I'm thinking, at one point, one of the days we can alternate out the Halo show or the Snyder show, then do a show just about X-Men. Just talking about all their little stories because I recently just got into X-Men and I really want to try that out. All right, if you guys have any recommendations for X-Men storylines, drop it in the comments. I'll be more than happy to check those out and let you know. All right, so Halo Helljumper. Story opens up with some drop pods flying in to this planet's atmosphere. And this is planet Ariel. It's kind of a flashback scene, and this guy's like, you may wonder when the story started. It's this. So there's a Covenant invasion. People are like, oh my gosh, call the UNSC, the Covenant here, they're going to kill us all. Spoiler alert, they end up dead. But this story is written by Peter David and art by Eric. I'm going to mispronounce this name, Nguyen. All right, so here's a DC Wildstorm, guys. All right, so anyway, then opens up on at a space station with a group of Marines just sitting around having a few beers, talking about Spartans. Now, we've already talked about Spartans, and they're basically super soldiers. What these guys are, these are what are called orbital drop shock troopers, the namesake for this podcast. What they do, think of them as Navy SEALs. What they do is they hop in those drop pods from before, and I'll hold a picture up to the camera so you guys can see it. And they rocket into onto the surface. They're actually shot pretty much out of a cannon toward the ground. So they're talking about the Spartans, the legends. And what's kind of interesting here is that it's well established in Halo lore that the orbital drop shock troopers and the Spartans have like a rivalry, which is completely one-sided because the Spartans don't care, but the orbital drop shock guys are like, hey, you're not so tough. So anyway, as it normally gets, so this one ODST starts telling the story about when they were in the gym, and you see this kid that looks 12. Spoiler alert, it's the Master Chief, and he decided to take him down a peg, but this kid like completely annihilated them. This kid was like 12 or 13 years old, remember? So yeah, that's it. And then one of the Marines, whose nickname is Romeo, makes a few snide comments about the ODST, saying about how they got their butt kicked by a 12-year-old. A bar fight ensues, a bar-ish fight. So Romeo is saved by his friend Dutch, and anyone that played Halo 3 ODST recognizes these people. So, as a result of their fight, they're confined to quarters. Now, we cut into the modern time because that was a flashback, and obviously they've been relieved. They've been sprung from the brig, and they drop in, and they're talking about. So Romeo mentions Dutch's wife Gretchen, who was an ODST as well, but her leg got blown up in a landmine. We see Dutch watching a video lesson from his wife. And the ODST show up. They show up to that planet Ariel that was sending out the distress signal. They're responsible to make sure to see what's going on. So what they see is there's tracks leading away from the facility. A lot of it looks like elites. And then the story does a lot of jumping back and forth. But anyways, so they talk about how Dutch and Romeo just go into the facility and start looking around. They descend down some stairs. They keep going down, down, down. Then what they discover is the Covenant are like digging for something. They a few of the other ODSTs are discovered and killed by jackals that apparently have some kind of energy storage. I don't know what this is. I think that's the energy cutlass that's described in the Halo novels. I'm not that sure. So anyway, the Romeo and Dutch are shot at. They return fire, do the whole thing. And what's cool is that so from this distance, the weapons that Romeo and Dutch have is like suppressed SMGs. They're not going to be able to get to punch through the elite shield. So what they do is they shoot at the catwalk, and the catwalk just lands on those two elites. It's so cool. Unfortunately, then the elite fires on the generator, like spasmally, and then the generator is going to explode. So Romeo and Dutch just what they do is, all right, so they grab two elite bodies and actually ride them out. They hide behind the elite bodies and just fly out. Now what they discover, so they capture a grunt, and they tell the grunt, okay, so we're going to kill you unless you tell us what we want to know, which is like, where are the humans and what are you guys doing here? So what's hilarious is that they let him, is that the grunt tells him what they want to know, and then Romeo just shoots him. He says, I told him I'd let him go. However, it says here, I said I'd let him go. Didn't say I'd let him stay gone. So he just kills him. Romeo and Dutch fall out. Remember, they're separated from the rest of the squad. There's just two of these guys, and the squad's like miles away, but there's like a lot of Covenant between them and their squads. So what they decide to do, well, first off, what they discover is that they're being followed, and these elites and grunts had like pushed some rocks at them. So then Romeo and Dutch basically engage in guerrilla warfare tactics against the Covenant army. By what they do at one point is they duct tape some grenades to a rock wall, shoot them, and then what that does is it causes this massive explosion that causes the entire wall to like collapse. And it buries all the elites. And then what they do is that as they're running, they have tripwires that set off landmines. Then they come to a Covenant dropship, a Phantom dropship. This thing that's being guarded by some Covenant. So what they do next is what's actually really funny is that. So what they do is they duct tape pistols to this elite's back after they kill him, and then they decide, okay, so Dutch, you're gonna walk him into there because they won't shoot him at first. They'll think he's like them, and then what happens is Dutch gets actually what happens is Dutch is he says, okay, so I'm gonna pretend to take you prisoner by holding up a grunt's body. They walk in, then when they're within range of the Covenant. They drop the grunt, grab the two handguns that were taped to the grunt's back, and then go to work on the grunt guards. They power up the Phantom, take off, and then also take out these Covenant with the Phantom's guns, which is, it's kind of interesting how in the game the Phantom's guns are nowhere near this effective. Like right there, I'm like, what? What the heck is going on there? I want to fly that Phantom in the game. Come on, guys. So what they do is they decide, okay, so we have this Phantom that's like ridiculously overpowered, like unrealistically overpowered. So they decide, okay, so we're going to start playing with that Covenant army again. So they just fly around, they strafe them, but then they're hit with a fuel rod cannon, which a fuel rod cannon is basically a Covenant rocket launcher, and the Phantom is going down. And remember, this is really quick. It's just because I just want to get through this and I can talk about it. So the Phantom is about to crash, and then they execute what is equally like unrealistic and just plain stupid. They just jump out, dudes without parachutes, and they somehow survive. I'm like, okay, that is the weirdest thing in the world. So what else is kind of cool is that so they reach this mine that's being like excavated by these Covenant, and what the Covenant want is, okay, so the humans are going to they capture the colonists and then tell the colonists, listen guys, you're going to run into that room, even though there's like there's traps, and you're going to set them off. So what Romeo and Dutch do is they toss a couple of Covenant bombs, and the grunts, thinking those bombs are armed, run in and then set off those traps, and then Dutch just body slams the elite right into the laser grid, which cuts them into 3 pieces. It's really cool. So now Romeo and Dutch move in, and what they decide to do is they do the old buddy crawl thing. They get inside, and then they discover it's a monitor. And a monitor, so for those of you that don't know, Halo is basically named after the Halo rings that are designed to wipe out all intelligent life in the galaxy. Now, the reason for this is because of this basically zombie virus known as the Flood. Now, monitors are basically caretakers of this facility. Occasionally, they'll have basically one of these, which is basically like a computer that's meant to like, it's just knowing. I'm trying to figure out how to properly say this. Think of him as a librarian. Just think of him like that. And I don't mean the librarian as in the librarian character. He has all this information. So what Romeo and Dutch say, okay, so can the Covenant use your knowledge to wipe out humanity? And then the AI goes, oh yeah, absolutely. Down to your last DNA strand. You will not survive. And then now what they decide is that we have to take out this thing. So he says, okay, so I have 2 questions, AI. Where's the way out? And can you destroy yourself? And he goes, yeah, if that's your wish. So he said, yeah. He's like, a wise decision for you. Unfortunate for me, but your primacy is established. You may reclaim this facility. So basically, that's the whole thing about how humanity is meant to inherit what's called the mantle of responsibility, which means the responsibility to watch over all of the intelligent life in the galaxy. So now, so they run out. And they manage to escape. They managed to escape the facility before it explodes, and then the story ends. Now, in terms of, first off, I liked the story. I felt it was very, very good. I'll redo this later when I have, like, quite frankly, more energy, because it's like 10 o'clock at night. But also, so ODSTs. So I like storylines that are about characters that aren't necessarily like super powered. Like, I prefer the non-force wielding Star Wars characters like the Bad Batch, Mando, Bo-Katan, and such. And I like a lot. I feel a lot of compelling stories can be told without superpowers, like Batman or these guys, because it's more up to their skill and not necessarily up to the abilities to like the enhancements that the soldier has, as in the case of the Master Chief or so. So what I mean is, so with the Helljumpers, it's I think it's like a little more exciting of a story if it's like, oh my gosh, these guys that don't have any powers, aren't genetically enhanced, are gonna take on a Covenant army. That is so cool. Granted, the Master Chief is still dope. I love Spartans. 100% Spartans are my favorite part of the Halo universe. In fact, we'll do an episode just on Spartans at a future date. But I still feel it's a really nice storyline when you can make a good storyline about non-powered characters. All right. So that's the end of Halo Helljumper. Next time we'll cover Halo Uprising, I believe, if I decide to go on with this Halo show. Because here's the thing. I'm trying to prioritize which shows are popular, which ones will get clicks. And so far, this Halo show has been kind of lacking. So what I want to do is, you guys tell me, do you want me to keep the Halo show, or do you want me to swap it out for something else? Because I can do, because what I was thinking of doing is swapping it out and either taking Monday off or providing a X-Men themed show, like a show just for the X-Men, in addition to Under Two Capes. Or just taking off, because I'm trying to get more shows where I can have people there talking with me, because I find it gets really dry if it's just me doing this the entire time. I mean, I'm pulling up my YouTube channel real quick just to see like the views. Well, first off, the debate on Superman Wonder Woman blew up a lot more than I thought it was going to. I mean, oh my gosh. That and the Beast Wars one like completely exploded. And the one that's like the Masters of the Universe. So a lot of our YouTube channel is starting to gain some traction, but the Super Wonder one and the Underbat, even on the social media, I had a nice debate with a few of the Under Two Capes followers, and yeah, that was very interesting. Thanks a lot for that. But yeah, we're trying to prioritize which things will be popular. So just let me know if you guys want me to continue the Halo show, or if there's anything else you want me to cover. I may stop the Snyder show, because right now, as of yet, there is no new Snyder stuff. And then either just do the X-Men show on Wednesdays, or just not deal with it, or just leave that day blank. So I'm thinking I might want to put one more day blank. But anyway, that's the end of this episode. Hope you guys let me know on what you want it to do. And again, I put a community post on the YouTube channel, so check that out. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye.